All right, 7/2/2022. Today, well, let's see. I got to sleep in, so that was great. Apparently, some M&M thing was going down while I was sleeping. I told Noah to eat M&Ms. Oh, I was told Noah ate M&Ms with very strange substances such as garlic, beef bouillon, etc. So a bit sad I missed that, but the sleep in was worth it. I was the last one to get up and finish his quiet time. So after that, we all went to swim. Originally, we were going to swim at the community pool, but it was totally packed, so we decided not to. However, as we were leaving, we were going over the bridge under which my backup charger fell in the water, which I left there. So I petitioned the group to stop and let's retrieve it, since we were like all swimsuited, and so we did. However, once we got down there, everyone thought it was like a pretty cool place, and so we ended up swimming there, and that was great. Definitely better than the pool or even the lake. Once we got done with that, we got back, took showers, dressed up in this mega fancy dresses, not dresses, but outfits for the very fancy dinner we went to. It was a place called Friar Tuck's, which is a great name, and it did indeed have a fancy vibe. I wore an outfit Alan made for me, and everyone thought it looked good. We then ate overpriced food in the form of fondue, where they gave us raw meat, and we had to wait for each piece to cook. Now, I think that's dumb, because we're paying like $37 a person, right? For what? A pot of oil and some meat we could buy at the grocery store. But it couldn't even be prepared for us. No, there's no preparation. Like, yeah, I guess it's like, it gives you an experience. But it was definitely an overpriced experience. It was not that good. Plus, like, it wasn't bad, don't get me wrong, but, what would you expect from really pricey food? Potentially pre-prepared food that's really good. It took ages to wait for each bite to cook in this space, too. It took 2.5 hours to get our meal. I guess we did have dessert afterwards, so I guess that counts toward the price, but still. Anyway, perhaps because it was dumb, it was good. And it was also a very new experience. And I did actually like it. Insofar as it was dumb and new. Not insofar as it was, like, efficient. But yeah, we got home, and now I'm here. And Caleb and Noah and I are playing Paultopia. And that's great. That's all I have to say. 7/5. The day before yesterday, we went to church, and it was bueno. Pastor Scott likes using object lessons, but this time his Jesus balloons returned to heaven. So the object lesson was only part of Jesus. Anyway, more importantly, after church, we organized a trip to Humpty Dumpty's, the restaurant we tried to get in earlier, but couldn't get in because it was so popular. And besides us, we had Anna, Reese, and Ellie come along. And then later, Steven showed up. And it was a good time, actually. I really enjoyed talking with Reese about cars and how to drift like a boss and stuff. Very good, lighthearted conversation. Oh, and also the food was super good. Like, I see why it's so popular. Once that was over, we went and bought shoes. Shoes? Oh, for a caving thing. This is a carving thing. Which we're going to, which I'm super excited about. And then went on a 2-hour walk. And then I went on a 2-hour walk instead of shoes to break them in. And during the whole time, I worked on reciting the history of philosophy. I definitely forgot a lot more of this time, but I did decent still, so I'm still satisfied. Also, 2 hours is a long time to walk in the side of heat we're talking about over here. I got really hot. Once I got back, I watched a little bit of anime before making dinner with the assistance of Nowhere. And then, after that was consumed, Caleb invited me to join him on a spontaneous drive out to nowhere and everywhere at the same time. And yeah, it was great. Reminded me of the drives I would do with Ben. We just listened to Caleb's clean songs, some of which I actually liked a bit, and we just drove. We ended up going down this dirt road, which turned into a very bumpy dirt road that turned into a pseudo off-roading road, and eventually we had to turn around because Caleb's car just couldn't handle it. But as a side, quest, it was good. And while we were going down the dirt road, I got to sit on the window and, have only my feet in the car, and that was super fun. Never done that before, but I'm totally going to do it again if I ever go somewhere where we're driving super slow. And yeah, it was a great time. Once we got back, we did recaps, the slightly normal routine, and then I beat this really hard level on Beat Saber. I'm very proud of my accomplishment. I'll send you a link so you can witness the greatness of history being made. Well, Alex's relative history, but As for yesterday, it was the 4th of July party that was happening. We went to the 4th of July at the Johnsons, and basically no one but us was there at the start, but we still had a good time. And then we participated in some molten sand volleyball, which as people trickled in, which was really pretty good, honestly, but it was so hot, our feet were dying. Also, I still didn't have use of my left hand, so that sucked. But I think I did well nonetheless. After that, we got to play some spike ball, which was great, and Caleb and Noah participated in some two-hand touch football, and it seems likely they had a good time with that. I think that makes sense. After that, we decided to divide the squad. I know, unthinkable. And Noah and I would go hang with Steve and the others while the others stayed at the Johnsons. Thus, since we only had one car, Joe effectively drove us home and then took Caleb's car back to the Johnsons. Noah and I got underway on the drive, and it was actually fantastic. Really felt like, we're back in Colorado as we drove through the trees with the windows down. It was great. Once we got to where Steven had set out, it turned out everyone had bailed except Noah and I, so it was just the two of us and Steven. But honestly, I kind of preferred it that way. And it was then that I realized that I very much should have brought a backpack. But for some reason, I didn't think to do this, so I ended up just wrapping my arms around my stuff and hiking through the train tunnels to the spot. It took us a bit to get there, but eventually we got there. Also, train tunnels are super cool. Highly recommend. Once we found a way to get up on top, I climbed up, but Noah was too sketched out, so he didn't do it, and that was a big sad. Thus, we ended up saying I can't just blow the spot where we were supposed to be, and where we would have climbed up, and we waited for the fireworks. It was during this time that I asked Stephen if he had any inspiring words, to which the answer was very much yes, and therein he started monologuing about how creation reveals God's beauty, and it was kind of odd. It was also pretty cool, though. Stephen's a pretty great guy. So yeah, we talked. I got to hear some of his backstory, and then that was sort of put on pause as the fireworks happened. They were decent. I've seen better, but the particular vantage and just the situation we were in just made it all worth it. Also, there were, two people with these like super powerful like lasers that were shining in the clouds. That was kind of funny. So yeah, after the fireworks, we talked, and since Steven had to get up at like 6 in the morning to work, he decided it would probably be best if we didn't see the night. But since we'd already had our sleeping stuff out, we decided we might as well spend a bit of time in the stars and talk before we left. Thus we did so, and he finished his like mini life story, and then Noah and I told ours, and mine, of course, contained my conversion from 5-point Calvinism, which caused Stephen to ask why I left. Well, not perceiving that he was a 5-point Calvinist, I said something super polemical and just like, because it's stupid. So prove right there on my part. And thus a pseudo debate ensued about why I think Calvinism is untenable. And that's what we talked about until we had to part our ways back to our cars. So mistakes were made, but a good time was had overall. I suppose it's worth mentioning that once we got back, Caleb had already fallen asleep, so we took a selfie with my pillow that we labeled Caleb, and it was kind of disturbing, the process. I was disputing some issue of contention when we realized the picture was being taken, and thus I overcorrected my face to account for such, like, eagerness. And so the resulting two pictures are absolutely hilarious, and if you can see the contrast, it's pretty funny. Tuesday, I woke up, had the regular morning routine, and then left, originally to buy Crocs, but it turns out that they are stupidly expensive, and they weren't in our sizes, so Karina was the only one that actually got Crocs, and Joe and I just got water shoes. Why water shoes, you ask? Well, because today we were volunteering at this place called The Ranch, which is a program that helps troubled youth basically get their life together and get a high school diploma. Thus, Joe, Karina, and my task was going to the lake and uproot cattails, and admittedly the job was kind of gross. The water smelled horrible, but we all just kind of decided we wouldn't care, and thus we had a pretty good time. Pulling cattails is also a lot harder than you might think. They have some pretty deep roots. It was during this whole experience that I brought my speaker and my phone out in the kayak, which we were using to shuttle out the uprooted cattails, and I don't know for how long we did that. And I proceeded to discover my phone was basically fully submersed in water, so that was a big sketch. But I powered it off immediately and just let it sit in the sun before bringing it back home and letting it stay in a bag of rice overnight, and it turned out it was fine, so that was a major relief. Anyway, we did that for around 4 hours, which was actually super tiring. Plus, we made some friends with some leeches, and yeah, we were very grateful for the showers we got to have thereafter. Then we joined the students for dinner, and dinner sucked, but that was all good. And then there were 2 extroverted girls that just interrogated us. That was great. Oh, and we got to play table tennis I got to play table tennis against this really good guy named James. Our first game, I won by 2 points. The second game, I lost by 2. And the last game, I won by like 4 points or something. All very close games. We're pretty evenly matched. I then played this guy named Levi, and I think I barely beat him the first time. Well, the second game, he crushed me by like 9 points. I don't want to say anything about that because it'll sound like I'm making excuses, but he was basically just like pretty good. And the sun was in my eyes, I will be honest. And then we started another game, and the score was like 4-15 in my favor. When we had to stop, then we had to stop. So I think I redeemed myself pretty well. And it was cool hanging with those guys. Once we got back, we bought some ice cream at the request of a deliriously esteemed maiden, and then proceeded to eat said ice cream. Oh, and then Caleb and I got into a physics debate where I articulated that water boiled at a linear rate given a constant amount of heat and increasing volume. Well, he thought it boiled at a logarithmic rate. So we conducted an experiment, like a mini science experiment, and it showed that the logarithmic answer was definitely wrong. But the times we got definitely required some, stretching to fit my linear hypothesis. So I'm right, but the experiment didn't quite, demonstrate this. Anyway. So we're kind of even. Anyway, so I remember some stuff that I learned from physics and explained refraction to Caleb, and that was cool. And yep, it's really stupid how much I've forgotten from physics. But, it's just not knowledge I care about, at least not like philosophy. So it kind of makes sense. Anyway, that was a fun way to end the day. As for yesterday, it was a free day, so we all kind of did our own thing. I called with Ben and caught up, and that was good. I then played this new Oculus game called The Room, A Dark Matter, and it was a spectacular puzzle game. Definitely the best one I've seen thus far, other than I Expect You to Die, which is pretty good. Which was pretty good too. So yeah, after getting about halfway through that, I talked with William Varley, and that was big bueno. He will hopefully be coming to America in about a year, so that's super exciting. Yeah, it was good to catch up. After that, I finished the puzzle game without using any hints, mind you. Ate dinner, which was this weird French toast stuff that Joe made. And then we all watched a movie called Predestination together. It's the only movie I've seen do time travel right, and so I really liked it. I think everyone else thought it was pretty decent as well. 7-8. Yesterday, I didn't exercise come the morning because I knew we'd all be going to the ranch, and it was a decision I very much regret for not having... Oh, I see. It's a decision I very much regret for not much physical activity was had. However, prior to said physical activity, we all helped the students sticker letters with addresses and stuff. It was a very easy task, and I got to talk to people, so that was good. Though Caleb didn't sticker. He had like a tile job or something like that instead. After that, Noah and I joined the students for some ultimate frisbee. However, the only shoes that I wore were the steel-toed boots I brought for hiking through the cave. Yeah, I know, really didn't think that through. But I've never owned steel-toed shoes before, so they seemed like pretty cool. So I was like, I'll just wear them. Anyway, started playing Ultimate Frisbee in steel toe boots, and that was definitely a painful endeavor. Hard to start running, turns out, when you have steel toes. And when you try to stop, your toes just like jam the steel part, so that sucked. So that was a bit lame, but overall good otherwise. And yeah, it was pretty super exhausting. Once we came back, I played 2 games of chess with Joe, and then eventually we started a game of hand-brain chess. We didn't end up finishing because of dinner. After dinner, I played a lot of table tennis with Levi and James, the 2 students, for 2 hours or something, and it was a lot of table tennis. And man, Levi beat me pretty soundly quite a few times. I don't know what it is about his playstyle, but it actually throws me off. So yeah, that was a blast. But, I do play table tennis very energetically, so by the end of it, I was actually exhausted, and this got a good workout out of it. Oh, and also my new boots totally broke. It was pretty sad. The heel just peeled off, basically. Right after that, we left straight for young adults, where I met a nerd who likes D&D as much as I do, and we just talked about that for basically the whole night, and it was good. I'm not sure we share much else in common, but it was nice to talk to you. After that, we headed home, and I watched the end of the anime I was working through, which was super good, and I rated it a 9. That's my 5th 9 thus far, and I really enjoyed it. And then I went to sleep. That's it. All right, the 10th. As regards the day of Fry, we arose, didn't do much in particular. Joe played a VR version of The Room, which is a super cool puzzle game, which I already mentioned. But yeah, we kind of just killed time for a few hours. However, after getting time, we decided we should repent and thus do something with our time, thereby letting it live, aka we drove to Sacramento. There was a fire near the road, so we got to see that really close, and that was kind of cool. But in combination with Noah taking a wrong turn that caused us to be late to our appointments, that was much less cool. Nevertheless, the people were nice about it, and we got to our respective sensory deprivation tanks. And I've got to say, the experience was very interesting. I opted to have no sound or light for the whole time, so I got the full sensory deprivation experience, but other people, had the sound for part of it. But yeah, it was really weird, just floating there without any effort, and the only sensory input being when you would bump against the side of the tank every once in a while. I totally lost track of time and just breathed. I didn't really think of much of anything for, however long it was. And just being really confused for a second when the hour elapsed. I was like, what? Light? It's real? And then I realized that it was indeed real. And when I tried to remove myself from the tank, it was really hard to move my muscles. It was weird. Let me tell you, after floating around Complete Axe for an hour, it just felt so weird to move. I felt so heavy. And it was actually really hard to lift myself out. I had to try it a few times before I realized, oh yes, I have moose eels. So yeah, overall, very novel and tasty sort of experience. Once we got home, everyone but me got smoothies. And since we couldn't find a parking space, Noah just drove around Sacramento as the purchasing took place of the smoothies. However, a car very nearly hit him. It swerved into our lane quite suddenly. I think we were in his blind spot. But Noah reacted beautifully, and we did not indeed collide. So that was big bueno. On our way back, we stopped at Chipotle and got burritos, plus some chips and queso, and that was very tasty. Straight from there, we went to this event that Trish Johnson, the person who hosts Young Adults, was putting up to help clean up stuff, and it ran for an hour longer than she thought it would, and thus we were mega bored. But we eventually did do our volunteering things, and it was poorly organized, so we spent a good amount of time just trying to find out what to do. Nevertheless, we got some stuff done, and we ended up staying until 11 or so, and then went home. And then I watched some anime before going to bed.